Hello, my lovely library lions. Today I wanted to talk about my spring 2021 TBR. So I don't really like doing TBRs that are month to month because I feel like I'm too constrained. I'm a bit of a mood reader, so I don't want to have too many books sort of listed that I feel like I have to read. So what I tend to do is give myself 10 books every season to get through, and then I usually end up with a month of just free reading. But having the TBR is important for me because it makes sure I get through my Owl Crate books. It makes sure I get through the books that have been on my TBR for years, just sitting in the cart waiting to be read, and all that sort of thing. So without further ado, I'm going to show you the 10 books I've selected to read in spring 2021. So the first book I'm going to read in spring is These Violent Delights by Chloe Gong. So this is a book about sort of Romeo and Juliet retelling set in Shanghai in the 1920s. It's a historical fantasy with that retelling twist. It has two gangs, and the gangs are against each other. And of course, there's a Romeo and a Juliet character who end up falling for each other and need to figure out how to defeat a paranormal sort of force that's appeared in 1920s Shanghai. There's a lot going on here. And unfortunately, I've heard pretty mixed reviews about it recently. I haven't seen anyone say that they read this and loved it, so I'm a little worried about that. A lot of people are saying the prose is very heavy and plot is slow, so I'm a little worried to do it, but I did get it in Owl Crate, so I do feel like I have to read it. I read every single book that Owl Crate gives me, even the ones I'm not excited about. This one's sort of in the middle. I am personally a little excited for it still, but I do... Ooh, you just saw Fox get up on the top of the bookshelf there so he can watch me film. But I am a little nervous about it because I've heard so many bad reviews from other booktubers. Not necessarily bad, just not favorable reviews. I'm still going to read it, and I'll let you guys know what I think probably in one of my wrap-ups this spring. Hopefully in March if I'm a fast reader, but we'll see. So the next book I'm going to be reading in spring is the Fullmetal Alchemist Fullmetal Edition Volume 12. I let myself read about 1 to 2 manga a month because I do want to keep up with my manga, but I know if I let myself go too far, it would become all I read, and I don't want that. So the Fullmetal editions are these beautiful hardcover editions of the Fullmetal Alchemist series with sort of metallic foiling on them. They each have a different character on the front, and we've finally gotten to Winry. It took her 12 volumes to get a cover, which I feel like is a long time, but she is a little less prominent in the early manga than she is in the early anime. The anime lets her come in a lot earlier. So I am excited to read this. The last one I read wasn't one of my favorite parts of the series, but I feel like one of my favorite scenes is maybe in this volume if I'm thinking about the right chapter. So I'm really excited to get to go into this one. They've also not just done the covers, but they've sort of touched up the manga panels as well, so everything is super clean. And I'm really excited to see how they've cleaned up this one. The next book I plan to read in spring is Little Fire is Everywhere by Celeste. Sorry if I butchered that. So this is a book that I saw John Green recommend ages ago, and everyone had amazing things to say about it. I believe there was a movie or a television show made about it. I'm not super sure, but I've wanted to read it since then. I don't read a lot of adult fiction. I especially don't read a lot of sort of contemporary adult fiction, and this is a nice sort of neighborhood drama where a perfect neighborhood has someone move in and they seem to have secrets, and you have to find out their secrets, and it's all interconnected. Everyone is hiding something, obviously. That's the way the real world works. Everyone's hiding things. And I'm really excited to dig into this and see what it's about. I don't know a lot about it other than that. I've just heard amazing things, so I picked it up without knowing sort of the main plot. And it's been sitting on my TBR cart since at least June, so I wanted to finally get to it and get through it instead of just leaving it there to rot because I heard nice things about it, but I don't have any strong draw towards it on my own. Other than that, other people have said it's amazing. So the next book I'm going to read in spring is Dear Bully. So this is a nonfiction anthology written by plenty of popular authors. I know R.L. Stine, who wrote Goosebumps, is included. And it's just their stories about when they were in school and how they dealt with bullies, how bullying affected them. I just really love anthologies, and I thought this was a really interesting anthology to write, just about real-world bullies and how those stories affect people. So I did want to read this, but I bought it from Book Outlet over a year ago, stuck it on my TBR cart, and then never got back to it. I'm going to make myself read it this spring because I am interested in it. It's just not one of those books that I ever have like a mood for. I'm never like, ooh, I really want to read some anthology about real world stories about bullying. So I need to make myself read this because I know I will like it. I'm just never going to be in the mood to pick it up unprompted. The next book I'm going to read in spring of 2020 is the conclusion to a series I've been reading since it first released, and it is 5 Dark Fates by Kendare Blake. So this is the conclusion to the 3 Dark Crowns series. So this was a really interesting book series just because when it started there were 3 protagonists, and there are still sort of 3 main protagonists, and none of them were obviously going to lose. It was neat that the competition was set up and you had the 3 sisters and they all seemed equally fleshed out, all like equally good people, and it didn't seem like the book was going to favor any of them over the other, so it really let you sort of choose your team as a reader, like, oh, I like... Are you done? Really let you choose your team as a reader versus which team you want it to be on for the queen. So there's Queen Marabella, Queen Arsinoe, and Queen Catherine. Queen Catherine, that's who should win. I really want 2 of the sisters to die, or at least one. My biggest pet peeve with this series is that they set up this, oh, only one of the sisters can survive, and we haven't seen any of them die to this point. I really want one of the sisters to win and become queen. I don't want it to be a happy ending for all of them. I'd be happy if all of them died and it was a sad ending for all of them. I know that's terrible, but that's what I wanted out of this series, and I really want Catherine to win because she deserves it so much. She's definitely my favorite of the sisters, and I can't wait to finally finish this series. I've been waiting so long. So the next book I want to read in spring I don't have a physical copy of yet. It's coming in my February Owl Crate, which, depending on the order of me posting videos, might be here already, but at the time of filming it isn't. So it's The Gilded Ones by Namina Forna. It's a high fantasy series. The cover is gorgeous. I'm so excited to see what the Owl Crate exclusive one is. And the story is that a girl lives in her village. When it comes time for her blood ceremony, her blood is gold, which means she's impure, and she has to go and serve the emperor in a army of girls who have golden blood and probably have powers. I don't know much about it outside of that, but I do try and keep up with my Owl Crate books, and just based on how beautiful the cover is and that it is a diverse read, I'm so excited to get into it, and I can't wait for it to actually be physically here so I can tear through it and hopefully let you guys know what I think. So the next book I want to read in spring is Suicide Notes from Beautiful Girls by Lynn Weingarten. So this is a book about a girl whose best friend supposedly commits suicide, and she doesn't believe that that's what happened. It's a mystery about her trying to figure out what actually happened to her friend, why it's being covered up. She thinks she knows something that other people don't know, and she wants to investigate it. Other than that, I don't even remember why I picked up this book. It does sound interesting, but not sort of the thing that I would pick up nowadays. I do know it's been on my cart for maybe 2 years at this point, which is way longer than I want to keep a book around without having read it, because I like to read my books and figure out if I want to keep them around or unhaul them. So I'm going to get through this spring and see if it's something that I adore, that I want to keep on my shelf, or if it's not something that I'm so into and I just picked it up in a different time in my life and it's not for me anymore. But I guess we'll have to see. Speaking of series, this is sort of part of Becky Albertalli's series. This is Leah on the Offbeat by Becky Albertalli. It's set in the same world as Simon and the Homo Sapiens Agenda, and it's about his best friend, who is Leah. I sort of hated Leah in Simon's book, so I want to see what she's like in her own book and sort of dive into her personal life, her thoughts, her feelings, and see if I can't empathize with her. I've had this on my TBR since it was announced, and I bought it from Book Outlet at some point, and I just never got to it because I didn't like Leah as a character, and so I'm not super motivated to read it, but I do want to complete what I started. So I read Simon and the Homo Sapiens Agenda, and I want to read about Leah and see if her story sort of encourages me to see things from her perspective. Maybe she's not as horrible as she seemed. So I'm excited to finally read that. Mostly read it off my TBR cart because it's been sitting there staring at me, making me feel guilty for ages. The last book that I want to read in spring is my last Owl Crate book, so I read about 3 every season. This one is Lore by Alexandra Bracken. So this was actually on my TBR before I knew it was going to be an Owl Crate book, which means that I was excited to read it, and it's not going to be a burden on me to read now. I do like the normal cover better than the Owl Crate version, though. The Owl Crate version's a little dark, but I'm excited to read it. I love anything about Greek gods, and I like that they've sort of put them into a modern setting and made them more modern, and it's going to be like a hunt. There's going to be a lot of action, a thrilling chase. I'm excited to see how Lore interacts with Artemis and with her childhood friend, see if there's any romance, and I'm excited to see what other gods we get to see depicted in this series. Overall, I just think it's going to be a pretty interesting read. I liked the author letter that was included, and I'm really excited to see where it goes. So that's every book that I want to read in spring of 2021. I'll obviously complete those and then move on to just reading whatever catches my fancy at the time. I know that when I eventually get Rule of Wolves, which my friend bought for me because Waterstones will not ship to Canada at the moment, so she'll have to send that to me and I'll read it as soon as I get my hands on it. But it isn't one of the books that I want to hold myself accountable for reading because I know I want to read it. I want to complete the books that have been on my TBR for too long and make sure that my new Owl Crate books don't end up in a stack of unread books. So these are the ones that I'm going to read. I'm holding myself accountable. What's on your TBR for spring? Let me know down below, and I hope that you have a lovely day.